Moderator for the second panel, and he's an assistant professor and the director of Power Electronics, Energy Harvesting and Renewable Energies Laboratory here at the ECE Department and Institute for Systems Research. And now I'd like you to begin the second panel.
Sure. Thank you, Abhijit. First of all, welcome everyone to this panel, which is mainly on the recruitment process. Overall, this panel will have I will just give you the overall outline, and then you can go find and talk about it. So you'll have an introduction, even though some of the panels are the same from the first panel, but I would like you to, if you do us a favor and introduce yourself again, because some students and some people like me, they're new to the panel, so it's good to know everyone. And then we'll have discussions about a few items. We'll talk about the current job market, job search, and application process. And at the end, we'll have some time, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, to talk about questions and answers. So let's start from right here.
Sure. I'm George Zaki, and work now with I graduated from this department last year, and we're working with a startup company in the technology advancement program, which is across the parking lot, and we do medical image processing.
I'm Bogdan from Texas Instruments. So I graduated from PIT in 95 with PhD in EE, and in TI I'm managing a team of engineers who is they're doing this software for our embedded processors, like high performance computing, signal processing, image processing.
Hi, I'm Maggio. I work for Northrop Grumman Corporate. I am a university relations and recruiter. I spend most of my time in the Midwest. I have 4 schools, 2 in Colorado, 1 in Ohio, and 1 in Wisconsin. I used to work for Electronic Systems where Nick currently works. I have spent my entire career with Northrop in college recruiting. So if you have a question about it, ask it, because I know it pretty much the way our company works, what we're looking for, what we want to see on a resume. I think to date I've probably looked at probably over 20,000 resumes and have conducted hundreds and hundreds of on-campus interviews. So I am more than welcome to answer any question, to be part of your professional network. If you have questions, you can find me on LinkedIn, but let's connect. I want to help you all.
So I'm Conrad. I'm the head of air missile defense at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, just up the road here. We hire on the order of about 100 to 150 new graduates a year, all the way from bachelor's through PhDs. I was part of the discussions this morning, so I just look forward to continuing this discussion.
Hi, my name is Kratzmeier. I graduated from Maryland last year with my bachelor's and master's degrees. Currently I'm working at Northrop Grumman, a large defense and aerospace contractor. I'm doing our design. I just went through this whole recruitment process 9 months ago, so it's very old.
My name is Gail Johnson. I'm Executive Director of Human Resources with AT&T, where I manage kind of the full range of HR processes, including staffing. So I have an HR director that reports to me that has a staffing team of recruiters underneath them. So definitely here to talk to you about opportunities at AT&T.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And students mostly they know me, some of them they don't know me. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Maryland. My research is mainly focused on power electronics, so I will just be moderating this panel. So let's first focus on current job market. Let's see what are the perspectives of our panelists in terms of the job market. First question that we would like, first item that we would like to discuss. What do you see overall tech job market right now? Do you see any particular sector hiring more or less? Like when you think about comparison between defense, energy, biotech, maybe this is something that's interesting. Anyone?
I would say it's and. I think it's defense, I think it's biotech. I think anyone who is graduating right now with a degree in a technical field or one of the STEM fields is, the world is your oyster. There's a lot of hiring that happens. Our team, AT&T recruits and hires probably 20 to 40 people a week, specifically with a technical background. We also have an intel space where if you have a security clearance, you're very, very remarkable. So all of the above.
But then you mentioned the very nice word, security clearance. The majority of students here, they're international. Not even having
Well, I mentioned it, but I didn't realize that we also hire without security clearance. That's just one of our sectors, is the intel sector. But we have other positions, even our DOD positions, not all of them have a security clearance requirement. And we also have civilian positions.
Okay, beautiful. Any other comments from other panelists?
Well, so the market has been going up and down. It's really been tumultuous. I mean, part of the market is driven by government spending, especially in this region. You know, heavily in this region for government spending, and it's been a mess. I mean, I personally, I'll just say as not representing anybody here but myself, I think Congress is screwed up big time, and they're not taking into account that the inefficiencies of what they're doing is really hurting business. Big business, small business. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, what they're doing with regards to just starting and stopping and shutting government down and things like that just cause those of us who are trying to do business, it causes us a lot of, uncertainty in terms of what we can do. So what happens is large companies are holding a lot of money. They're holding money in reserve trying to survive this and not putting it either in investments or, in terms of investing in R&D or something, or hiring more people. So we all sort of hold off on hiring at times because of that. Now, okay, that said, there is still a lot of work to be done out there, and a huge need for people. And especially, as she said, if you have a technical degree, there's a huge need out there for you. And if you look at the employment figures or the unemployment figures for folks like yourselves, it's minuscule compared to the large population. When you see these 7 or 8 or 9%, unemployment numbers, that is not U.S. It has nothing to do with you. So if you want employment, there is employment to be had out there, and there's opportunities for it.
I would talk about, I have very small experience, of course, we are a startup, but our CEO is a research director in Children's Hospital, and he went through hiring a postdoc for with having in mind that you want somebody to also do commercialization. And we have an advantage because a lot of people who apply for this position are not even here. So you getting a degree from the US and having an OPT early enough and say, I already have an OPT, you don't have to go through all the legal work to get me in. That's basically gives you one step ahead. Second part, even if you, a lot of companies we consider really seriously if they have the right skill set. So you might need to work on that or try to basis that during the interviews that show I am fitting to this position because I have the skill sets you want. You don't have to spend too much time in getting me trained on that. So that's one more point you might focus on and you might magnify during your interview, showing how much skill sets or even if you are still doing your degree now, try to acquire more skill sets. If you know MATLAB, you want to do some programming, do some CUDA or GPUs, and all these new areas where you develop. This will help you a lot when applying and give you an advantage in the application process.
Any other comments from?
Yeah, in Texas Instruments this year we hired about, last year actually, 600 people, which is kind of less than what we usually do, probably in the past we do 700 to 800. So we obviously have a need, so yes, market goes up and down, and for us also it wasn't that good in the last few years, but still we need to hire new talent and we have to invest in that. If we don't do that, we just go down.
And something else to add, because I've been doing college recruiting for a long time, I think one of the major changes I've seen from our corporation is the change in disciplines that we're trying to hire. When I first started at Northrop Grumman, we would hire predominantly mechanical engineers. That's where our greatest need was, but because of sequestration and the change in the Northrop Grumman business and where we are taking our corporation, we are changing and focusing more on EEs, software engineers, those type of students. We're still hiring 500 to 600 new grads like TI. The disciplines have just changed and the type of skill sets we need are changing.
That's a very interesting point, and I have been observing myself, see the students graduating from my own research group. We do a lot of research for power electronics for transportation, for electric cars and stuff like that. And automotive industry used to be driven by mechanical engineers. Now it's completely changed. We see there's huge need for electrical engineering. There's huge need for electrical engineering, and there are tons. And I heard at some point, maybe 2 years ago, Chrysler had 150 positions only on hybrid powertrain. 150. Then I see this is, like, always there is up and down in the field, and a lot of...
In TI, actually, I mean, automotive is one of the fastest growing areas.
Exactly. And the EEs are replacing mechanical engineers that they need. It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's just something else to add, for Northrop, one of the largest business areas and opportunities for students is in our health IT division, which has nothing to do with us hiring medical students. We need software engineers, hardware engineers that are willing to work in the health environment. A lot of our students are coming in and developing apps for the VA. We have a large contract, so just because it's defense doesn't mean that we just do planes and submarines. We're doing a multitude of different things. So there's a ton of different opportunities to get in with the company, work in an area, and then end up in the area that you really want to be in.
I would have to echo the exact same thing. I mean, she's 100% right. There's IT spans the gamut of the different areas that you can touch. So we also have a healthcare practice, we have a transportation practice, we have what we call a kind of a gas and the shell oil types of things. So it runs the gamut of the types of things that you could touch and be involved with. So it's very exciting. There's not a dull moment.
So another thing which might be interesting, so what do you see affect the current market, current economic situation, in fact, let's put it this way, in hiring international students as opposed to domestic students? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I can comment because we don't require security clearance right now. But so, I mean, we hired 600 people last year, and none of them needed any clearance or any kind of citizenship requirements or anything. However, there are certain things when it comes to undergraduates, but okay, they're not here for it today. With undergraduates, it's harder to get sponsorship, so that's the only problem. But for masters and PhD, we do sponsor, and there are no problems there. So we are willing to hire anybody if there's not a PhD, no matter where they come from.
And if you were to ask me prior to, I think, April of 2014, I would tell you that 99% of all of our employees have to be U.S. citizens because of the nature of our business. However, because of sequestration and the changing profile of the defense community, Northrop Grumman has now established international businesses. So one of the two that are right now called Northrop Grumman London and Northrop Grumman Australia. So because of these international efforts and because we're moving certain parts of our business internationally, we are slowly going to start piloting and hiring international students. The goal is to predominantly hire students that are from their home country, is either Australia, we actually just opened Northrop Grumman Dubai, we will then open Northrop Grumman Tokyo. So there's some opportunities for you to work for my company in your home country. Not right now, so don't jump up and down, but there's definitely opportunities that are forthcoming. However, still here in the States, because 99% of our business is in the government realm, you have to have citizenship. Electronic systems are very small. There's some areas where I can't even get you on property or in the front door because of the nature of the business there. But be patient, things are really changing, especially as sequestration drives companies like mine to get business elsewhere.
AT&T has always had a large presence outside of the United States. I mean, I think you may not have noticed that. That's actually why we changed the name legally from American Telephone and Telegraph to AT&T, because we wanted to express the fact that we're a global company and that we are in most of the world. This is the way we describe AT&T. So that's something that has been in place for many, many years. We hire expats to either go into other countries, or we hire foreign country nationals to work in countries. So either or is applicable. And so I mean, we have a huge presence outside of the United States, and if that is something that is of interest to you, definitely we can do that. And we do that both ways, by the way. We do bring the expat people from other countries here into the United States also. But the point that was being made relative to sponsorship is so important. I mean, that's been very cyclical with AT&T, and I think it depends on what's available in the market. So if it's a career field or a skill set that is very, very, very unique and there's a large demand for it, we first have to look at U.S. citizens, but if they can't, then we But again, it's not kind of the normal run-of-the-mill types of positions that can be found with U.S. citizens.
So I think we talked about the fact that, like, what are your perspectives in terms of job market projections? I mean, it was a, comment that you made in terms of mechanical engineers are being not. So, I mean, still there is demand for mechanical engineers, definitely, but electrical engineers are getting more right now, or IT, computer science, more job opportunities. But let's a little bit extend on and talk a little bit about, like, what else do you think in terms of job market projection in future, let's say, 1 to 5 years from now? What do you think your strategy is going, your companies are operating to?
But you're saying 5 years from now, we are already planning for Workforce 2020, and we expect so we expect to be around in 2020, and we expect and we expect that we're going to have a very robust workforce. I think my colleague here said it best. It's even in cyclical times of ups and downs and shrinkage of spending, there's always a need for great talent. Always. And I've seen that even in the worst of times, which I would say probably the 80s was one of the worst times of unemployment, and yet there was a segment of society who had the requisite skill sets that never saw double-digit unemployment. So I think that, even into the future, forecasting into the future, companies like Northrop Grumman, companies like AT&T, we're always going to be hiring the right people with the right skill set. So
I'll add up that the reason I mentioned 1 to 5 years from now, because the majority of these students, they will graduate within 1 to 5 years from now.
Absolutely.
So hopefully in this time period, they will have jobs. That's what I wanted to focus on, see, like, what do you see the market projection? Do you see market is getting better, there are more job opportunities available, or do you think it's going to be the same, it's going to be less, or?
I think that it's a great question. It's a very interesting question, and somewhat unpredictable, meaning that it could be the same, but with a totally different set of skills, or a totally different set of disciplines, okay? And I think the example of the mechanical engineer as opposed to the electrical engineer is a perfect example. So kind of on a person-by-person basis, you would probably say you're hiring about the same, but the mix is very different. The mix shifted.
I just want to interrupt with this regard. I guess another perspective people are trying to figure out is because of the recent economic crisis and all that stuff. A majority of companies, even in the tech industry area, are trying to shrink their hiring pool. And also being extremely picky in terms of who they choose and whom to keep and whom to lay off. So in terms of that, is the effect still being reverberated, or are they more or less diminished and it's back to the usual way of business?
I would say as of the beginning of the year, you definitely started to see the turn up. But I've been in this business for a very long time, 27 years to be exact, and it's very cyclical. Like by the summer to bottom out again. So it's very cyclical. There's like, you can't say like we're turning up and now we're taking off. So it is very, very cyclical.
But even in terms of where we're cutting, where you see rifts happening and organizations shedding people, there's still, most of those organizations are still hiring.
That's exactly, yes.
And it's about talent. It's about the type of talent they need. And it goes right back to what she said. People who have not kept up in developing themselves professionally and got too narrow and focused on technologies that just, and skills we don't need, they're just not valuable anymore. And so we cannot, it used to be, those people were just buried in a company. We carried it. You can't afford to do that anymore. If you're not producing, you're gone. So the key here is that you guys are coming in with new marketable skills, and you want to make sure that the lesson learned out of all that is that you continue to refine those skills and grow those skills within the needs of whatever organization you choose to work for, and so that you don't end up in that position. But we have been hiring even as we're firing. It's what we do.
And something to add, my corporation, the average age of an employee is 57. Which means that over half of our workforce could literally retire today, tomorrow, most certainly within the next 5 years. So regardless of what happens with defense budgets, the cycle up, down, we will always hire new graduates. there are people in Northrop that would like to continue to have their pension. In order for us to do that, we still have to have a company, and so we will always, the numbers may shift depending on years, depending on budget, wins for Northrop, how much we have going on, but we will always hire interns and new graduates.
Thank you. If there's not any other comments from panel, we will move to the other topic. So the next topic of interest is the job search. So it's good if panel can relate their experience with a few items like identifying and creating an employment opportunity, or how to prepare a CV or resume. This might be a good question for people from HR. If they could comment on this, or importance of internships and how that has a role in terms of getting the job. Like, is it really important? Do they need to have an internship? For most of the students, they're doing their PhD here in this like a 5-year process. So in this 5-year process, some of them they do internships this summer, right? So is it something that you recommend them you should do, or is it something that to be again, different fields are different. I will give you a few perspectives, then I will listen to the panel. So in our field, everything is hands-on. You have to build stuff, right? And I feel students working in my lab learn much more than working in a company. Company, they learn slowly stuff, right? A student going out of my lab, they're expert. They get offers after offers. So but some students, they do mostly theory stuff here. How do you project this? Do you still even with the student which has really good opportunity to learn hands-on, so do you recommend them to go and work for internship? Is it just because just add a line to your resume, or what do you think?
Well, in TI, it's definitely important. I mean, for example, when I look at the resume, and we get multiple resumes, we come to the affairs, if I have to choose between somebody who just took some classes and maybe has some good grades or whatever, versus somebody who has similar grades, similar classes, and has some internships, I would probably try to look at the guy who has internships, right? So that probably says it all, right? So that's from our perspective. From your perspective, it's also important because you can learn about it. And internships are really, really good opportunity to go to maybe 1 or 2 different companies along the way to kind of see different things and see in the end where you want to go, what you want to do.
It was interesting that you said that, and I said spoken just like an academia. Somebody who's an academia, that really treasure the lab work more so than corporate, being in a corporate environment. I would tell you that AT&T absolutely puts a premium on past work experience, and that's paid or unpaid. And that's something that I would give everybody, is that it's definitely better to have an unpaid internship than to have an internship at all, because sometimes it's hard to find a paid internship. But that work experience is key. Because, and I think we're going to touch on it at another point, it's not only do you kind of understand what to do, but do you understand how? Do you have a skill set to work in a corporate environment? Do you know how to team? Do you know how to be a part of the team? What are your written and oral communication skills? Those types of things I can't glean from looking at all these different classes and all these different labs that you took. But if I see that, you've worked, as we call them, belt and bandits, you've worked at a lot of different systems integrators here in the Washington metropolitan area. You've worked at Northrop, you've worked at AT&T, you've worked at in the government even. It tells me a lot about your work ethic and that you are a fit in a corporate culture. So that's very, very important for AT&T, is for you to have internships. And by the way, I would say that with any and all majors. Long gone are the days that you can just have a degree. You have to have a degree and you have to have a work experience.
So let me, so you suppose student has 3 journal papers, very strong journal papers, which needs real good hands-on development. Let me connect it to TI, maybe more relevant to what we do. We design a lot of power supplies.
You should send some students to TI because they will also learn a lot of stuff in TI.
We can show you stuff that we develop in our lab, and you will be amazed. This is developed in the lab. So you will think that we have a conflict, but anyways. So let's suppose somebody has developed a lot of things and have very high profile in terms of the publication, high, not theory, experimental publication. And one student has maybe 5 very strong journal publications with experiment and everything. And one student doesn't have any qualification, but has 1 or 2 internships. So I guess you would rather both choose the one.
Oh, now you're changing the game.
But it's, I think it's different though, at least for us, because undergrads, master's students, and PhDs are all completely different. So what I'm looking for out of all of you is very different. I can't say that we would hire an undergrad student who has never worked, never had an internship. That's a pretty high risk for us. Because we're such a large multidisciplinary company, we need to know that you can go to work and talk to people, go home and come back, right? That's important for undergrads.
So let's see how many of these students are undergrads.
But see,
Students raise their hand.
so there's no one here. So for us, it's very different because what you guys will have on your resume is very different. If you have the publications and the research, maybe for Northrop, if you have research funded by another defense contractor or NASA or the government in particular, that you kind of have a government mindset, that you've been exposed to the way things work for us and our customers, that might get you preference. But understanding that we handle PhDs differently in the overall scheme of what we expect on your resume and how we would bring you in through the process. PhDs have to give presentations in their interview. They have to meet with high-level technical individuals in our company. So it's like your own interview process for PhD students.
This is very good. In fact, it covers a lot of, identifies different. What I mentioned is mainly for grads and PhD students. And other grads definitely different.
Definitely, completely
Okay,
different.
so for a research organization like APL, we are the applied physics laboratory. So you did change the game on us there. The key thing that we're looking for is does the individual have hands-on experience? And what we build is capability. So you need to be able to actually, it's not just the theory, it's not just the essence of it, it's can you create something that works? And have you demonstrated the ability to work in that environment with working the trades of cost and all the other issues against something that functions in a way that it's supposed to work. So we also look different depending on whether you're PhD or master's level as to the types of jobs that you do and how we interview you. But for me, the key thing isn't whether they've published a lot of papers or worked in a laboratory or done an internship. It's that they've done something. They've demonstrated in those environments their ability to work. Now, the other piece to it, though, where internships are very valuable, I have about 60 interns each summer just in my organization, which is about a 1,000-person organization. So it's not a large percentage, but we call it driving before buying. And it goes both ways. You get to try us out, we get to try you out. I'll go back to this morning's discussions. It's about connections. 40% of our hires are through somebody knowing somebody, not all the other recruiting mechanisms. So it is by internships, you form connections, and you form them with different companies, you'll form them with us, and that's very valuable, because when you are looking for a job, you talk to your colleagues across the country, and you find out what opportunities are there, and they talk to their employers. That's very valuable. So internships help you form those connections.
So I'll summarize this perspective that it's very important. It's very important to have internship opportunities. Our internship experience for 2 reasons. One, you build the connections, get to know people. The second thing is you have some experience in work environment. How does work environment behave? What are the work ethics? And in the meantime, what is important here, in other perspectives, that it's very important for you to know how to do stuff, how to get things done. Not that you might have many papers and you might have many internship experience, but you might not be the person who gets things done, right? And that's very important to be in an environment, independent, in a research environment, in an internship environment. You should learn how to get things done. This is very important when you get off, especially for graduate students. And that's in fact my main intention that I even brought up, made this discussion secret. What is important? Is it important that somebody knows how to build this stuff, how to get things done, or just having a line of internship or having 2 lines of paper? What is important? I think this is very important.
But having lines wouldn't be worth much unless you can speak about it, right? You have many people who kind of put some stuff on a resume, but you ask them a little bit, they have no clue what they were doing there, right? So, you need to know how to do things. That's the key.
And the whole process is a screening process. So, you get a stack of resumes like this. Everybody's not going to get in front of someone who would understand a paper that they have written, okay? The first couple of screens are probably with, HR recruiters who, sometimes the first screen, by the way, is a computer, so your resume is actually scanned into a machine that's looking for some key words and key experiences that matches the job description. And then you'll meet with a recruiter who may be recruiting for a ton of different types of titles, so they don't have a lot of depth in one particular discipline or one particular area. They have a wide range of skill sets or jobs that they are responsible for recruiting for. And so, at any of those steps, your resume can get tossed. And so having something that most people, even if I'm not savvy or understanding exactly what you do, but I'm impressed by, the fact that you've worked at some of these large companies and that you've done some really cool stuff, that gets you passed on to eventually the person who will be impressed that you published 5 papers.
And I cannot express to you all how important it is to have a well-written resume.
Absolutely.
That's what I was gonna
Bottom
emphasize.
line.
Let's switch and talk a little bit more about
The
this.
bottom line, they say on average, recruiters spend 4 seconds reviewing the resume. I mean, the volume of candidates on an application, at least for us, new grad, master's, PhD, is over 1,000 candidates, and we review everybody. So you're talking high volume. So I think the only thing I can tell you guys to remember, at the end of the day, the person is probably not in front of you. I have to be able to tell your knowledge, skills, and abilities, bottom line.
Yeah.
Bottom line. 9 times out of 10, I'm never looking at the person's name. My first glance is at the university and what you're studying. GPA is important if there is a GPA, your publications I review, but at the end of the day, I have to see things called out.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do? What technical skills do you have that qualify you for my job?
And to add on to that, could you, specialize your answer more towards masters and PhD students, because you did mention about GPA, but then
Right.
we get a ton of conflicting advice from people saying GPA matters, GPA doesn't matter at all. What matters is your work experience.
It matters. It matters to the point where, as a PhD student, I will ask you what your undergrad GPA was, so remember it. Right? As you list your schools on your resume, clearly College Park would be at the top because that's where you currently are. All of the other schools that you've gone to, I still need to know your degree title and your GPA.
And it matters because she's so spot on. You can get on one job rec, literally hundreds of people applying for the same job. There has to be something that differentiates the keep pile and the throw in the trash pile. And so one of those differentiators could be undergrad GPA, could be. If you're in a very unique, assignment where you are one of 3 applicants, GPA doesn't matter. Okay, but if you are one of 120 people, yes, GPA is going to be a factor into whether or not you move to the next step. One of the factors.
That's the reason that you should try work hard and get high GPA.
Or we have a requirement. Some of our locations won't look at a candidate that has any less than a 3.5. Other locations will look at a 2.8. So we need to know where you fall. Right?
And GPA, in my opinion, is kind of shows how dedicated a person could be
Yes.
for his work and own responsibilities.
But on that note too, when you do get in front of someone, and if for some reason your GPA is not what you feel it should be, you have that opportunity to talk to them. They are a person, you are a person, we understand things happen, right? So I think a lot of the times a good way to sell yourself is if you have like a major GPA, so that way the person can still see that you really liked what you were studying because you're here to study what you're studying. So if your major GPA is higher than your overall, I can understand having a rough freshman year.
That's exactly.
But I can't understand if your double E GPA is still at 2.5, then that should be a hint to you that you might not be doing the right thing, right?
That's
So
very valid point, very good comment.
there's other ways to sell yourself, and don't look at that number as, oh my goodness, this is like the final thing. Most certainly not. We understand.
And maybe, what do you think about some students, they might have gone through difficulties? For example, I don't know, some of them might be working 2 jobs, paid for tuition, all those things. So what would you recommend? And you see some students, some students in the first 1 or 2 years, they haven't done a great job, and then towards 3rd and 4th year, they have done exceptional job. How about the listing, I don't know, the GPA of the last 2 years, or something like that?
All those things are good. As a hiring manager, those things are important. But the problem we have is a tyranny of numbers. And they just talk about that. When you got 1,000 resumes, one of the easiest things to cut that pile in half is GPA. Just put a floor GPA and be done with it. So you're going to be subject to that type of thing that you're dealing with. Now, one thing we have noticed, and we've done studies and looked back to see who were the most successful people in our company. It hasn't always been the ones with the highest GPAs. It's the ones that are sort of like in, they're good, solid GPAs, but not the 4.0s. And so we've come to be a little bit more not selective in the sense that we only hire the 3.7 and above. We really do realize that there's a mid-range there and with some very motivated, successful people. So what I will do then is look to see, what else were they doing? Were they working sometimes full-time to go through school? Were they doing internships? Were they working in laboratories? What else were they doing? Even to the point of what were their other pursuits, sports or whatever you did. I'm looking for well-rounded people. I'm not looking for automatons. Because those are the people, the well-rounded people, the people who are going to be successful. And so those are all pieces to this puzzle. But as she said, it's got to be visible in the resume so that we can see it and we understand who you are.
So let me dive into that a little bit because Nina is spot on. Long gone are the days where you have one resume that you spray out to 5,000 companies.
Yeah.
I mean, this day and age of technology, given the Microsoft suites and all of the word processing things out there, you really need to take the time to customize your resume. Because that hunt and peck thing where a recruiter's gonna literally sit there and try to figure out and hunt and peck to see if they have relevant skills, it's just not going to happen. And so what I tell people to do is to take the actual job description that you are applying for and try to match your resume to it. Now, I'm not saying lie, but a lot of times, for example, there are things that you may definitely don't lie, because we'll find out. but there are things that you would highlight on one resume that you may not highlight on another resume because this particular job description specifically pulled out certain keywords. Make sure those keywords and experiences are on that particular resume. And I mean, you can have like a foundational basic resume, but always tweak it to match the job description so that there is no figuring it out that they really mean, hunting forward. It's like right there in front of your face.
What do you think in terms of the length of resume? Do you think it should be 1 page, 2 page, 3 page?
I recommend no more than 2 pages. What do you think?
I would say no.
Yeah.
If she's reading it for 4 seconds, you know she's actually looking over and looking at that.
But again, I think it's different though. I think undergrad, 1 page for sure. But for those of you who are published, I don't need to know all 35 publications, but I think for PhDs you have a lot more content, and I don't want 7 points so you get it all on 1 page, right? Like I don't want to be scrunching looking. That's no seconds are given there. So not more than 2 pages. No.
So when you're applying for an industry job, maybe 2 pages for a grad student and 1 page for undergrad.
Yes.
Makes sense. And how do you recommend in terms of building this resume? Some students, they come and ask me, they show me their resume and they say, help us, like, Professor, I'm applying for this job, and what do you think? I normally, when they're applying for an industry job, I recommend that after their education or their experience, or maybe their experience the first before even their education, and then they go to this. When they're applying for academic position, then I put them first with education, then your papers and notes, and then your experience. So what would you recommend if they're applying? Would you like to see their papers before their experience, or their experience, or does it even matter?
Yes, it does matter, but you didn't mention one thing, and that's skills.
Yeah, skills is.
She brought it up earlier. Go look at what the job description is, and look, and don't lie. But, but do match your skills to what they're asking for. So a clear statement in the beginning of the resume that says, I am seeking a job with these
Exactly.
attributes or capabilities, and I have these skills through experience or education to match that. If that statement is right in front, that's the one that grabs us.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little different because I have never once in all of my years read an objective statement that blows my hair back. 9 times out of 10, it's like something so simple like, okay, you're an undergrad and you want a double E internship. I can get that without you taking up the top space to say that. So if you are going to put together like a summary of yourself or an objective statement, give it something, like a punch, like I get it, this is what this person is passionate about and this is what they want to do. Make those things clear. And when we talk about skills, maybe even make a skills section. And it might sound really simple to y'all, but list out AutoCAD. I don't know, all of your technical skills, list them out.
Yes, skills are very
MATLAB,
important.
yeah, all of those things.
If there are no skills, for example, on the resume, then you really question, okay, so what? Okay, everybody goes to, gets a master's degree, has all these classes, and that's fine, but what they really do know, what kind of other things you learn, like some languages, languages, hard to use, and operating systems you worked with, blah, 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 something like that.
Oh, by the way, you just said languages, I think you meant computer languages.
Yes.
but
Oh, yeah.
If you have multiple languages, that's really important. A lot of companies these
A
days.
key skill,
Yeah.
very much.
How about pertinent coursework? Irrelevant to the job? No, doesn't matter.
In my opinion, it's a space filler.
Okay.
If you haven't done an internship or really have no other way to show your knowledge, skills, and abilities, you add your coursework. I think if you add coursework, it's to show that you've done something outside of the normal EE software coursework that sets you apart from all of the others. And I think that's a little different because you guys are, as PhDs, you're just a different group of candidates anyway. But maybe as a master's student, if your study has been outside of the norm, put those classes on there. But for me,
Maybe if you have business, if you have
Yeah,
taken a course in business,
exactly.
so then maybe.
exactly, yep.
Yeah, I mean, there are students of business,
Yeah.
so.
And listen, when I told you all that there's those cards on the back of the table, I wrote my email on there. If you want your resume reviewed, send it to me. I have no problem writing with red pen on someone's resume to give them some sort of advice as to where they should start. I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So is this enough? Maybe we can move on to the next question, then we can.
Oh, there's-
Yeah, I mean, we will have questions and answers at the end of that. Abhijit, do you want to have questions?
we could integrate the whole thing.
So please, go ahead, then
So
I'll.
there's a question I have
Please.
about CV and resume. So how important is extracurricular practice and like service leadership, like say Abhijit doing president with ECEGSA? I mean, just an example. So like how important is that in
Yes,
Yes.
very important.
leadership
There.
skills?
Leadership.
Right.
Yep.
Because we've been talking about skill sets, and I think, we should drill down on that a little bit. There are technical skills, and then there's the softer skills. We want to see both. That's the well-rounded candidate. That's nirvana. That is the candidate that we want. Someone who has, yes, they have the technical aptitude, they can get the job done, but they also have demonstrated leadership, they've demonstrated great communication skills, they've demonstrated the ability to team. So anything that starts to build on those softer skills and have that pulled out in your resume where I can clearly see that you have those softer skills is key. It's very, very important.
That you're take initiative
Mm-hmm.
and that you're connected.
Yeah.
Again, the skills we want.
But I think we need to know that you have some sort of balance too. That not only do you come to Maryland to study and perform as an engineer, but I also need to know that you can perform as a person, right? One of our buildings alone, actually the location in Baltimore, there's 9,000 employees in different buildings, but I need to know that if I hire you, one, I can sit with you in my cubicle because you're a human and you have like feelings and you're sensitive. but also, like, I also need to know that if I pass you in the hallway, you can at least like even just smile. You might not even have to like say hi, but like, hello, there's someone else around me. So there's that delicate balance, and I don't mean that you all should go out and join all these clubs and be super involved outside of Maryland, but just show me that you have something as a person. Who are you outside of your degree study? Yeah.
There were two questions. Sorry, I'll get back.
So a lot of us have teaching experience. How do you rank that on the list of priorities of things to make sure you get in a 2-page resume?
It's not that. I mean, if you're applying for industry job.
Yeah, if we're applying for industry,
Would you
yes.
be interested in seeing teaching skills? Teaching
Yeah,
experience?
if you're one day going to mentor somebody, you need to have skills like that. So you have to find balance in everything. Like how much you put to this thing, how much you put to that thing. Like if you go back to this discussion, being human or being zombie or something. You don't want to give impression that you're just partying, having fun, and kind of all kinds of clubs and you didn't do any study. Right?
This is the business stage.
Yeah,
So I got confused. You guys mentioned that skills are important, but then you And so following that up, an objective statement in the beginning. So how important is that? I guess you said that it's important, but isn't it just like anyone can say I work well under pressure and I'm a team player? Like, isn't that
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't waste lines on your resume.
Someone say on
And I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time on
No.
soft skills. What I was talking about is really what she had mentioned earlier. Is whatever job you're applying for, generally they list needs in there in terms of capabilities or skills or sets or whatever. To the extent that your objective statement can match to that and say, I am seeking a job with this type of technical pursuit, and I have these skills that I believe match to that. Be specific.
For example, if you want to apply to a company that, let's say, makes musical instruments or something, right, and you want to design new things there, and you're playing some instrument or you're a recording musician or something, apart from being PhD, that's useful, right? Yeah. So then we find, oh, okay, we don't have to teach them what piano is.
And by the way, the person asked about teaching. 25% of our employees teach in university. So yes, we do look at that.
Yes, definitely. Being from like a laboratory, definitely that's something useful. So let's talk about identifying these. Starting a company is a choice. Some of you, I'm sure, are entrepreneurs. You have entrepreneurs skills, right? Brilliant ideas. We file patents with the students and all those things. And we have George here. He's just recently joined also. He just recently graduated, and now he's working in this area. I mean, any perspective you have, what kind of perspective do you have for them in starting a company? Or do you have anything to share with them?
Yeah, I think that's why I'm entitled to it. Okay, so I feel like working with a startup would be like different from like most of the big corporations, definitely in many other parts, especially for us who have been in a research lab and now you're going to a startup. It's not that much difference in terms of like what's your objective would be different. So in the research lab, your objective would be writing the paper, getting citation, all this kind of good stuff. But in the startup, your objective would be sell the product, or maybe sometimes define the product and develop it and make it robust enough so that you can have cash flow positive there. So it's kind of close to us, like if you don't want to be overwhelmed or like you don't want to go to a place where everything is already set up and you say, I'm going to be like going through this flow, and now you're going to have like your opportunity to like, explore what you can know and what you cannot. So if you want to start, like if you want to join a startup or have a brilliant idea and you say, I can make a startup out of it. So for me, I joined the startup. I was like a second employee, but still the idea is like, or the startup we are in is like funded by SPIR, which is basically a research idea that want to be commercialized by the NIH. So they give money to professors or our CEO and like they told him, okay, go and try to commercialize this nice research idea. But if you think that you have an idea, it's a brilliant idea, nobody cares about it unless it makes money. So you don't say that the idea by itself will go and like makes you go there. You have to think about a business plan behind this idea. And as you as graduate school in Maryland, I know some of my colleagues do this business class. Well, as you cooperate, you have some business, you have to make a team with business people, and you start an idea and see what the potential of the idea. You kind of do the market research and like. And at the end, you end up with a business plan competition. You have like 50K, I guess, a grant or so on. So if you are into this, I recommend you to look for this class and take it for during your course. So you will be in startups also be learning about a lot of these different aspects of than what you have been doing in grad school. So you are not just an engineer at this point. You are the engineer. You are the business person. You might know a lot more about financing or like building a budget. You want to know about IPs and intellectual properties. You want to talk about what's the market size, how the market is growing or not, where you're going to get the fund from, and so on. So all these things like you have to be thinking about and like doing it every day. You might not be working, as I said in the previous panel, like on developing a business card. You want to be developing sorry?
Sometimes maybe a business plan.
A business card, like at the company, our company, we were sometimes like designing a business card. Sometimes we were designing the website. So we were like designing website, like organizing the ways to start like added. We are not targeting like basic market, but we are targeting, for example, at this point like venture capital. So we're gonna give up the next round of finance. So talking about money, this will be also another dimension. Where are you going to get the money from? So either you are from a very rich family, so you want to fund yourself, but that's not the only way. So people be like, people have also like, I'm going to make sacrifices with all the money. It's not usually the case, especially if you are in universities or like some government-funded program forces businessmen to go out and check SPIR programs, where you basically have an idea coming from a research lab, and you have another company, and like you go and like you want to commercialize this idea. That's what our company is. You can work as a consultant if you don't say, okay, I don't want to be like I want to be like the manager of myself, and that's what people say. A lot of people want to go to academia, but you still can do that while being in industry. You can work as a consultant for some time, know the market, what this market needs as a product, and you can start making the money you make from consultancy. You can start it and develop your own product. And once you are like done with this SPIR, these are like grants you get, and then you can start targeting ventures and like talking to investors to like fund you for the next phase and help you to find the market and so on. So it's a little bit different skills and like set of work and like kind of environment you will be in that's different from joining a big organization. So if you want to have a new idea and you want to implement it, you don't have to use for like really long paths to find who wanna agree with. Okay, just like when I talk to my colleague who is next to me and tell him I want to do that, what do you think about that? And like, a lot of it will be the discussion, especially if you're joining small startup for like us, is what the basic added value is. Like you are discussing all these ideas and building on it, and it's kind of easy to do that because your colleague is not next to you. There's like only few numbers of even bigger startups, only few numbers of colleagues that you can all meet together and like have built over like the new ideas and know where exactly you should be going. And
so what kind of resources are available here at university or
yeah.
Maryland in general? Like maybe you can.
I think it's a very big
like
push up.
Yeah,
in Maryland, most of the universities now has like a very big support for ventures and startups. So in Maryland we have MTech. If you need somebody to help you like with legal stuff, there is some persons there. There is a business plan competition. We are located in the technology advancement program. It's a building just for startups, like a small office you can rent it. You can get it. You don't have to pay that much rent because like in some companies they take some of the equities for this rent, and they give you also a lot of help and support to do this business development. So the company is the state and the universities are pushing it so hard to get more investment and more people doing entrepreneurship and this kind of work. It's like basically once like one of them hits, it goes like into billions of dollars. Like if Facebook's technology. So.
Let me add a few comments here because Maryland has. I have worked in 2 states. This is my own personal experience. I've seen people starting companies. It's very challenging. It's not just running a company, having specific duties to do. So it's a full-time job. Especially if you're starting a company, it's like 24/7 work. That's one thing. Then I have worked in Illinois, and I also have worked in Maryland. Illinois doesn't have this defense. Maryland has a huge opportunity for this. Maryland provides you, like MTech, Maryland Industrial Partnership Program, there are like funding that they provide. In addition to SPIRs and STTRs, which George mentioned, there are like, STTRs are the technology transfer grants. SPIRs are small business grants. So you initially go to phase 1, which is about $100,000, then you go phase 2, $600,000, phase 3, whatever it goes on. But STTRs, if you have an idea, you are transferring to a company, you're starting a company, you transfer. Those are also additional kind of grants which are available, collaboration between universities and start a company, or any company. Maryland has this like MII kind, which is business or innovation development grant, and also they have MIPS grant, Maryland Industrial Partnership Program, that they team up with university professors and stuff. And there are tons of other opportunities, like TEDCO has its own opportunities. So this is a lot of opportunities are available in the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland and universities helping you guys to come up with unique ideas, go build next Facebook, next Google, next Apple, and you will be the guys doing it. I have no doubt about that.
And without taking up too much more time on this, I wanted to ask you how crowdsourcing has changed the landscape. Like for example, Kickstarter has had a lot of interesting projects. Like Pebble got about $6 million of donations to Kickstarter and stuff like that. And I think you briefly did mention something, or you or I think Akin mentioned about using Kickstarter and those sort of campaigns for, pushing products for startups. So, I mean, where exactly does it fall into the whole landscape of startups? Is it something that you start at the very beginning, or once you have a product firmly in mind and almost in the stage of type of production?
So for us, it's like when we are to like basically develop the product. So we are not like, and like then after we have like a clear idea of what the product looks like, you start like doing the marketing part. So we are in like in phase 2. That's where we are like kind of crisping all like our ideas and like pushing all our efforts into one of like few products we might thinking would be like the hit, and then we go and do this like phase 3, which is like the marketing part.
Other questions on this topic? Because otherwise we'll move on.
I know this is geared primarily to research lab. I know a lot of them have opportunities to create spin-offs. So I'm not sure, I was curious if you guys have that, and for the other people also. I don't know if there are any opportunities. I don't see why you would kind of encourage spin-offs from.
So there's been a big push. Part of what we've been talking about here for the state of Maryland has also been federally. There's been a big push for what we call technology transfer. And so for those of us involved in the defense industry, which produced a lot of technology for many years, it's what they call dual-use technologies, and the idea of pushing that out into the economic sectors. And so for Maryland, Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, we've been working together on a lot of different things. But yes, we, through our technology transfer office, we create spin-offs. So technologies that have been developed as part of the work that we do, if they have some type of dual use or a commercial use, we'll license them either exclusively or not exclusively. We'll help start up the company, meaning actually invest something in it to get it started. Those are all vehicles, and then working through the grant process like SBIRs and all those will help foster that company and launch it. So yes, those are all opportunities that are there. And most of that, again, if you go mine websites, our companies we put this stuff out on websites to attract interest in investors and people who want to take those ideas. So again, all of those are things that are available to you.
So let's talk about, thank you so much for sharing your
And yes, for spin-off, is like I know in computer engineering there are at least 2 labs in here having a spin-off company. So it's like where I was in the SDCAD, I have a company called SET, and Raju Parora has a compiler company. It's like started also in MTech, I guess.
Sure.
So this is like very common like these days to find like companies coming out of the research lab. So you can like go and look for that.
And then this final question for this, again, because we have a lot of international studies here. So if you join this company, what happens to your visa status? Is it something, I don't, it's maybe useful for them if they are interested in looking for...
That would be the risk, because like startups usually won't be able as easily to support you after the OPT. So if you have OPT and you want to spend 2 years and a half, I guess, in OPT in here, that would be easy for you to do. But like a lot of them, it would be like really a challenge compared to TI and AT&T to like...
Well, I actually started also as a foreign student in the startup, but later TI acquired, right?
Yeah.
So I was in the same...
It will be hard, so that's something you have to think about, like once like this time period ends, like if you are planning for them to go somewhere else, like that's fine, so you will be like getting this experience in here, but if not, you might be thinking that before you start joining a startup, that to see what would happen after this like 3 years of 2.5 years of OPT.
And it depends on the size of the startup, right? I mean, yours is really small.
Right, like maybe if you have like 10 people startup, that'd be easier for them to verify, especially if you have PhD, that's easier to get to sponsor. But like for them, if they're only dependent on grant money, I don't think that they can use the grants coming from the government to sponsor you for your OPT. Somebody has to pay this money.
Maybe they can use their overhead, but not...
If they're having some sale, yeah.
But on the other hand, I mean, I actually started also for a startup company, but one of the things is all you need to do is if you're going to startup is it's okay. I mean, like when I got a salary there, I could pay lawyers so that I could go through the process. The only thing I needed is from my company at that time time that they would support it, right? That they would actually sign all the papers that they need. They didn't pay for the lawyer. I was paying for the lawyer. That's fine, because I wanted to invest into myself, right? And that was okay, right? So I mean, nowadays, and that was like 20-something years ago, right? Nowadays it's more competitive. They will try to pay, right? Because that's one of the things they want to actually get you, right? So,
As long as they support you, it's
yeah.
But like part of it would be the size of the company, because if this company is super small, it doesn't have much credibility for the government to tell them you are actually like hiring you and they want to like sponsor you, but like you are like a small company, we're gonna believe you. But like if you are like have like 20 employees, maybe that's the size of the company, who can like provide this kind of sponsorship.
And there is also risk involved. Startups sometimes go out of business before you get done with your process, right? So,
so
you have to take into the overall equation, right?
So let me ask another question here again. So if somebody has startup company experience, would it count if they work at a startup company with other business and now they're applying for other company? Is it useful?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm building.
So why it would be important is for the very reasons that he was just talking about his experiences. Well, you know that people coming out of small companies, startups especially, that they have varied experiences, and their experiences are beyond the technical capabilities. It's about getting it done, which we talked about that. And the second piece is that it is useful that they have leadership skills. And many of the leadership skills come from being responsible for yourself and trying to make something happen. So
Very good, thank you. So let's talk about application process. Now we have about 20-something minutes to talk about application process. So let's talk about topics like a hiring process, like how to apply. For example, I'm on LinkedIn and I see a lot of companies or recruiters, they contact me, do you have student graduating? What kind of process would you recommend? What are the procedures? Do you think what are your thoughts on that?
It will be great if you could share that.
Social media is a huge, huge vehicle by which we recruit. We have all of the social media accounts, including LinkedIn, and we do full resumes from LinkedIn. So that's huge for us.
Very quickly, could you mention other social media which are primarily used for this sort of professional hiring thing?
Right.
Because LinkedIn is one of the only things I know, which is of this form and structure.
I mean, that's the biggest one. There's some smaller kind of boutique-ish or unique types of skills, specifically in the intel space, which is not anything anybody here cares about. So, but I think LinkedIn is definitely the one.
Facebook's limited. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something there. But I believe also, and I'm not a recruiter, I'm again the hiring manager. A lot of ours is by people who just mind the websites. So go to companies that you're interested, go to their websites. Most of us post, requisitions and people we're looking for. I mentioned earlier that connections are important. So if you know somebody who works for those companies, get in touch with them. See if they can help you find out what the opportunities are, and see if they can get you past that first or second or third screening of the resumes, because otherwise your resume gets shoved down in a pile someplace, and if they can get you onto somebody's desk, or even better, get you in for an interview, then you're started. So it's connections.
Right, and how do you get to know people? Go to some of these industry breakfasts, industry lunches, talks, evening events. That's where you bump into people and forge a relationship. And it's like, oh, I saw you 2 weeks ago at the blah blah blah.
And is there like a timeline in terms of hiring? Like, would you recommend them if you're graduating, let's say in May, should they start applying in March, or should they start applying in February? What is the procedure? How long will it take?
If they're graduating in May, they should start in September previous year.
Yes.
Yeah.
1 year before.
Yes.
Well, September, yeah.
I mean, not
September.
School year.
School year.
So September is not too early to be looking.
That's
for
exactly
right.
So this, like, for example, if you're graduating next May, you should start applying this
No.
September.
We've already hired our May graduates by January 1st.
Yeah, same with, we're pretty close too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But some things to share with you guys, because I am a recruiter and I also teach in the business school here. You have an awful lot of resources right here at this university. First things first, you have a career services dedicated just for engineering students. I use that your career services a lot more than you think employers do. And there are times where I can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I just got this job posting. You know, can you post it, or can you send me resumes, or can I have access to your resume books here? So you may shake your head, it may be like a long process for you, but work with career services. Second thing, as she noted, attend the networking events. Here's why. A lot of the times it's a pretty casual event. It's an opportunity for you to feel very comfortable to speak to someone within a company, right? Yes, I know your students there, and I know you will come with your resumes, but you get one-on-one attention as opposed to standing in a really long line at a career fair with recruiters who there's just a lot of students, and sometimes it's really hard for me to focus just on you. A networking event gives you that opportunity. And if a company's there for a networking event, you can guarantee they are there to hire, and they are there to brand their company. They want to work with you. I want to be in front of you. I want to answer all of your questions and be the person that you connect with. Those are really important things. The hiring cycle for us, if we're hiring new grads, that's when we're going to hire you, during your semesters. So keep in mind, career fairs are important. Everyone is hiring around the time of a career fair. An internship, which we talked about earlier today, is a great way to get a job way before you even go back into your the fall semester of your senior year.
We make offers.
Yes.
That summer before.
Yes.
The intern
Yes.
we want for the following,
Yes.
we make them before they walk out the door.
Right, which means that when they come on campus in the fall, they have less jobs to actively hire on because they've already filled however many of those positions because of summer internships. But keep in mind, use your resources. Know that if you're graduating in May, don't wait until May. Don't wait until January. Do it the year before, because at least for us, I've also noticed most companies come here in the fall with a full-on game plan to hire for that year, the fall semester.
Yeah, last year we filled, by the end of the year, we filled 60 or 70%.
Yes, same with us. And we find that the best talent comes to the career fair in the fall. I swear it to you.
Yeah. That's why actually here at ECE they moved it now to fall, right? In the past year, ECE fair was in the spring, and actually we
Yes.
planned.
Oh yes, and you guys have your own career fair. You have your own career
So
fair.
now it's
Yes.
moved.
Many companies.
Yes, that means that the companies are there for your population, you guys. They want you.
One thing I wanted to note, I did it in the career fair this spring, and this time was in the spring, not in the fall, so I'm not sure about that.
This is the first year they're going to do it.
Okay. But the thing is that almost always, at least as far as internships are concerned, I'm not sure about full-time employment, a majority of them say no to international students, saying that we have either hiring or
For us,
this is strange because of the student population here, but the other question I wanted to.
I mean, here, it's not only the student population here, it's all over the country.
Everywhere.
Majority of the
Yeah.
graduate students
Yeah,
are
it's
international.
not just you.
In our cases, that we filled all the positions, right? I mean, pretty much February, they're all gone.
Yeah, so interns are December and
Absolutely.
January.
Absolutely.
You got it. If you haven't done it by
And
then.
when you talk about interns, does it only include grad and undergrad, or is it mainly?
Yeah.
They do all of it.
Because like in my experience, my students that they look for internship, they started in like January, and whoever started, they got offers. So it's different.
But again, sorry not to interrupt, because a lot of you are international students, try to use those mentors in the career services. They work directly with companies that come here, so they're going to know a lot of companies, who they hire. They might even have a resource for you as international students, maybe a list of employers that come here that are either corporate partners or in the Maryland area that they know that can sponsor or help you find employment.
This is so. Keep this in mind.
It's free.
Comment?
It's free.
Please.
And the one other thing was we did discuss about graduation date and how, in terms of graduation date when you should start applying. But PhD students typically have a quote unquote flexible graduation date. It might get shifted at the very last minute and you don't know.
Yeah.
So supposing you did, it often happens, you get a job offer, but then things move around and your graduation date shifts. So how exactly does that work out?
Just call your employer.
Yeah.
So if you're flexible,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I shifted my date around by a couple months,
Yeah.
just because they wanted me to start like the week after graduation. I was like, you know what, I would really want to go travel. I'll see you in 2 months.
That's exactly right.
Why? Because they're really investing in you, not as you're some intern who's saying, I want to take another month and a half off, and that's a good problem, because you're half of your summer that's gone. But they're trying to invest in you, have a career there for 30 years, 2 months isn't gonna make a difference.
And a lot of the times our offers go out in December and you don't graduate until May or August of the following year. We know things can happen between then, so we are incredibly flexible, except for you have to start on a Monday, right? Like that is that is our only hard line is that, But besides that, we get it, you know, if you want to take a month and not use your brain at all, we understand, so. I wouldn't let that discourage you because you're a PhD and you don't know the exact date that you'll finish up. Typically, we'll ask you have an idea, when will you defend?
We even have people who report for work and continue to work,
Yes.
you know, part-time when they're finishing their.
How about in terms of during the interview process? So what are your suggested recommendations for them during the interview process?
I think I would say kind of top three for us, and and we don't these top three things, we don't make a distinction between undergrad versus master's versus PhD. This is for all applicants, even mid-career hires. Okay, the three things that I'm going to talk about. Buzzwords that sound programmed or rehearsed. Where you're talking, we ask you an open-ended question, and you're just throwing out a bunch of buzzwords, but you can't land the plane and drill that down to something that you've actually done or touched or experienced. We catch on to that very, very quick. So avoid the buzzword interview where you're just throwing out all of the popular words of the day. It's like really make it applicable, the interview applicable to you and your experiences, okay? I've coached 1,000 people on this, and I have been right 100% of the time. Leave your electronics in the car. Everybody always believes that if I put it on vibrate or if I turn it off, I'll be fine. Leave it in the car. I am telling you, there's nothing that will kill an interview like your phone going off or you glancing down at your phone. And we're just also, it's such a habit now. We're also guilty of just picking it up and looking at it at the most inopportune time. So just leave it in the car.
We say as we have them sitting here on the desk.
Yeah, exactly. Glancing down, exactly.
Leave the cologne in the car too.
Absolutely, that's another great one too. That is a great one. And then and this is very controversial. I've had people tell me, that that's not true in this industry, or that's not true. You have to dress to impress. I don't care, even if it's a technical title. I have never ever seen someone in a suit who is interviewing with someone who's in shorts and flip-flops say, "Oh my God, I'm overdressed." I have seen someone in casual go in and the person who's interviewing them is in a suit and they feel underdressed. You don't know who's going to interview you. You don't know if it's going to be that 56-year-old person that's been with the company for 30 years and they wear a suit every day, or if it's Bill Gates in his flip-flops and his shorts. So dress to impress, and you'll never be wrong. And it does matter because again, you got a stack of resumes. That's an easy weed out. You didn't come prepared is the word that's kind of written down in the hiring manager's notes. Not prepared for the interview, meaning they weren't presentable.
But I think you also need to be prepared for multiple interviews. In our company, most of the time, you get an HR person right from the get-go. I identify myself, hello, I'm not an engineer, I can understand what you're saying, but don't get too technical. So you have to be able to talk about yourself as a person, as a human being. Not that I ask, tell me your strengths and weaknesses, but if I say to you, so what do you do outside of studying? Or, if I was to stumble on your friend and they would say your greatest strength, think about yourself, because I'm in HR, I ask behavioral type questions, right? Because I need to know that you can answer those type questions. And be prepared for the fact that you may not get a face-to-face interview. Most of the time we will bring you on site when you are ready for an engineering interview. But that being said, just because it's a phone interview does not mean you should take it very seriously, right? Don't.
Phone interviews, Skype.
Yes, exactly. Non-traditional formats. Exactly. Yes, and it's important that we just did an interview last week. A student had an interview with a hiring manager, which, let me tell you guys, it takes a lot to get an interview with a hiring manager. During his interview, the hiring manager could hear him typing the questions on the computer, right? Because for some reason, he couldn't answer the technical questions. We can hear you. If you aren't prepared to answer the questions, I'm sorry. It's okay for you to say, unfortunately, I'm not prepared for this. Right?
Or I don't know the answer.
answer, or could you ask me in a different way? those are phone interviews. We probably do more phone interviews than face-to-face, so
That's
take
the
them
first-
seriously.
It's like the resume thing, it's the
Yep.
first weeding.
Yep, first weeding process. Don't do it in your lab where I can hear other people around you. Don't do it in the cafeteria. Find a nice quiet space where it's...
Don't do it on the cell phone and it's dropping out.
Exactly.
Yes.
While you drive.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, while you're driving. Yes.
These are two things that
Yes.
We actually had somebody have an accident
Yes.
during an interview.
Yeah.
So let's say you do actually get in the door, and you get to have an interview. She talked about a couple of things, about things like dress to impress. So, but now let's talk about actually doing the interview. First thing, look the person in the eyes. I know we're all engineers and scientists, and we all like to look at each other's feet, okay? We can talk about who's an extroverted engineer. He's the guy who looks at the other person's shoes. But as she said, even to another engineer or scientist, we want to see that you can connect with us at a human level, because much of our work is collaborative, and we need to be able to talk to you. Okay, first thing. Second thing is, answer the damn question. You'd be amazed how many times I'll ask a question to somebody and they're all talking about something else entirely. Because they didn't know the answer, or they didn't, just wanted to. I call it jamming. And it's like radio jamming. Jam the signal. Well, they just jam. They just start talking and they talk. Answer the question and do it with some revenue. Just answer the question so that we can ask another question. And so the dialogue can continue. If you talk the whole time, it's like, I'm thinking about when am I going to get rid of this person? So just simple human being things. That's simple stuff.
I would recommend practicing. I know that it sounds really silly, but
Role-playing is good.
role-playing is really good because we understand that you're going to be nervous, but I think a lot of the times you don't understand what type of nervous behaviors you have until you're in that setting. And I don't know, like you're going like this with your pen, and I have a little bit of ADD, so I'm not listening to what you're saying. I'm focusing on you and your pen, right? And then I don't remember your answer to the question because I don't remember. Or chairs that swivel. It's just like those really simple things. If your chair swivels, put your feet down. You're going to be swiveling, and then I'm going to be watching you swivel. Right? I mean, it's really common behavior that you need to be very aware of how you're going to act in that situation.
So to
right?
the role-playing thing,
Yes.
go out on the websites, there are all sorts of interview questions.
Oh, yeah.
Standard set of interview.
Yeah.
Just think about them. Go read them and say, now how would I answer that? And so that you're not stumbling or just at a complete loss.
Let me add a question. One of the common, like you mentioned that, what are your strengths? One of the common questions that HR people ask, and then they interview, one of my students told me, been asked about, like, what are your weaknesses?
Yeah.
So that's one of the common questions. What do you think, what do you expect to receive from them when you ask them?
Generally, if we ask you about your weaknesses, we want to know how you mitigate.
Yes.
We're not interested in, all your personal problems. My studies really focus in this area. I need to go do more in this area. That's fine, and you can express, and I have an interest in going and doing that. I mean, we kind of want to know who you are as a person, and that you're self-aware. If you just think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and there's nothing wrong with you, well,
That's true.
Yeah. I suppose that I approach it a little bit differently because I am not technical, so I can't hold down with you all technically. But there are things on your resume, and a resume is there for a reason. And I tried to find something on your resume that would make you happy to talk about from the beginning, right? So whether it's, don't overlook those things. If you were a Cub Scout, or if you played music, if you're, whatever it is, I'd like to open it up with, so tell me about this, because it's like a warm-up for us. You're then comfortable with me, you can talk to me, you understand that I'm a person, I'm not, I want to know, I want to learn about you. So the more you give me, that gives me the opportunity to ask you comfortable questions, the better it is for all of us, right?
And you will be asked, what questions do you have?
Yeah.
Do not
Yes.
say none.
Right.
that
Or,
shows a total lack of interest and
Absolutely.
awareness.
for instance, I ask one question just because I like to see the reaction of the person I'm interviewing. And the question is, and it always stumps everybody, if you could be a part of a car, what would you be and why? right? I don't ask that as a silly question. You can tell a lot about a person by asking them that question.
Radio.
Say it again.
Radio.
Radio. You're fun. I want to sit with you in a cubicle, right? Or, you know, like if you're a control freak like myself, I want to be the windshield. I got to see it all coming at me. There are things, and it gets you thinking outside of the box, right?
Well, let's go back to what she said, because this is, her point is really important. If I say, do you have any questions, and you go, eh, then I know that one, you very little interest in it, no initiative. You probably didn't go to our website and look at it before you came in for the interview, which, by the way, you have to do. Go on that web, mind that company's website, figure out what they're doing, ask questions about their organization, ask questions about the work that they do, figure out what would be interesting to you if you really wanted to spend your career working for someone.
I thought that's a question on the company's future direction or
Their strategy.
Corporate
Because, I
responsibility.
mean, you are also interviewing us, right? We are interviewing you, but you're interviewing us. You want to know, do you really want to work for that company? Or with these people, right?
And one that I really love that does, like, I love the way Nina expressed it, blows my hair away, is you read up on us the night before and you know exactly what was in the paper about us or on television. And you don't even have to know that much about it, but you could just say, I noticed, in the front of the Wall Street Journal, you have blah, blah, blah. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
Really interested in the company.
But also, just look at the panel up here that you have in front of you. 27 years in the industry.
35.
35.
30 plus, I don't know.
30 plus. You're new. But essentially, you have someone in front of you that worked for that company for a really, really, really long time. You have them looking at you. Ask them, why have they stayed at that company? What makes you happy to go to work? Because at the end of the day, you spend a lot more time with the people that you work with than you might your significant other, right? And there's more about that company that you need to consider when you sign that offer letter, right? Do they have work-life balance? What motivates you to come to work every day besides, working on these cool technologies? Ask the person in front of you those questions. You have the opportunity to pick their brain, so to speak. Yes, we want to know questions about the company, but I like talking about why I work for the company because there's a lot that I can share with you that I want to share. So see if they'll do the same. Use them as your resource.
How about after interview emails, gratitude emails or thanks emails? How about that? What would you recommend?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Every people that you have met during interview, send a follow-up individual email.
Yes, and I would even recommend sending a card. Because again, back to my statement, nothing blows my hair back more than getting a handwritten card from a student. You can go to the dollar store and get a pack of 12 of them and just get a pack of stamps. It shows that you were thinking about me, that you took the time, right? And it's just a really, really, really nice gesture because we've gotten so far away from being personal with each other. It's just
Email, tweets, all that's fine, but you should write a card.
But at a minimum, the next day, you send an email.
Exactly, and it's also nice if you reference something that was said during an interview that you thought about more, or maybe you really felt like you loved the question, and so you want to I thought about it a little bit more, and here's, put that in that email also. That's, again, very thoughtful.
Or if you save a question, if you have one in your hip pocket, send a question back saying, after the conversation, I really want to know what
Exactly.
You start the dialogue going, and you keep the connection.
And actually, the place where it's going to happen is especially in cases where you have candidates that are similar, and you have to make a decision which one to choose. That may be the turning kind of tipping point in your
And trust me when I tell you, that happens most of the time. Rarely do you see candidates that are like this, where there's like just big gray gap between it's very obvious who's number one. Most times you're like right here. I mean, really, when you get down to that last two, that last five, they are neck to neck.
So, sorry.
Yeah, how soon should you be sending that email? Like after 10 minutes out.
Yeah, I would say the next day.
The next day.
During the meeting.
Yeah, within 24 hours. But when you send that, thank you.
Before you drive out, no, that's
Right. But when you send that thank you email, do not demand a response, because I get that a lot too. So, thank you for the email. So, how do you feel about me? Like, am I getting the job? Like, whoa, take a deep breath, give me a minute. I will reach out to you, right? I mean, there's certain windows in the job cycle that you need to be aware of, and that one is 24 hours, right? If a recruiter or someone tells you they'll get back to you in 48 hours with a decision and they haven't gotten back to you in that window, that's when you can start those conversations. So, you told me 48 hours, right? But make it a thank you, a casual thank you with nothing to be given back.
No strings attached.
No strings attached.
Okay, question?
As for PhD students, sometimes, and not a lot of time, we have to actually find other companies than those who can be given these career fairs. And it gets heard a lot that you cannot get a good resume up to the second level if you don't have good communication at the first career fair or so. So what could be a good strategy to connect to other companies that we have not had a clear connection with?
Oh, I'll answer. Careers for Terps. I swear to you guys, you should, one, have an account, right? That's for Careers for Engineers.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, wrong one. Careers for Engineers. And here's why. Again, if a company posts a job on the Careers for Engineers website, it 9 times out of 10 is a legit job. They are coming here to interview students, especially if it's a pre-select. That means that there's interviews attached to the next day. They want a pot of qualified students. A lot of the times companies have decreased travel budgets. They can't physically get to Maryland, but they want to hire from here. Use that as a resource to find other companies that are not at the career fair.
So now let's suppose they did a wonderful job and they got an offer. Now, what is your recommendation to the negotiation process? How should they approach? What are the best practices?
Accept the offer.
Sure, we are done because this is the last question. After that, we're done. This is the last one. So if you can have some small comments, we'll wrap this up.
It depends on how marketable you are. I mean, obviously, if you have a skill that's in high demand and you have several offers in hand, but you would prefer to work because of, let's say, you like the workplace of one and the work that they're doing, but you got this really great offer from somebody else. It's okay to say, hey, I got this really great offer from somebody else. Can you do better? Can you get me there? But I'll warn you, of course, I'm a nonprofit, so I work for a nonprofit. We have a whole different view about money, and so if your total focus is on how much you're getting paid, that's not going to sell well. It doesn't sell well for most employers. You know, what we're interested in is somebody really wants to do the work. But we recognize that if you have a marketable skill, that we need to pay to that. So just tell us what you're offering. Be honest, by the way. I can tell you how many times I've had some candidate come in and say, well, I'm going to offer this. And I know the hiring manager over at the other company, and I know they're not offering that much money. Because I'll have a beer with them 2 days from then and go, hey, we didn't make that offer. You know, so don't lie. Just put, if you got an offer, just ask.
And remember, there's other things besides that dollar.
Yes.
Again, but like, as I'm in HR, I wear that hat of remembering that one, if you're in an opportunity for a government clearance, that's money invested on behalf of the company. 2, if someone, well, maybe not for PhDs, but master students, if they're willing to put you through a continuing education, that's more money they're going to invest in you. What else? Your benefits, if they're paying for, you know, retirement, 401k, I mean, profit sharing, relocation benefits, I mean, you name it, there's a lot that goes into that besides just that dollar sign.
Especially if you are going for big companies like all you go to Glassdoor and write a position and see what the average is. So you can know what kind of range you should be asking for, go a little bit more like and see if you are like very well fit for that and they really want to, they will increase it, but don't like go to a different level. That's one.
And again,
in startups like you will get stocks, but like you won't get as paid as much as like the average.
Yeah, you may make as much as 20-30% above your base salary in some companies with profit sharing and some other companies.
Yeah, but again, use career services, not to like put a huge plug for them, but at the end of the recruiting season, we put together a survey salary, how many students we hired, what degrees we hired, what the average salary was, so they know what master EE students here are getting in this market, in this area, right?
So we almost are at the end of the time period we have. Let's open the floor for at most 2 questions. First, we'll start the questions that people who have not asked questions. If there's not questions, we'll do it. So, okay.
I have a question that I want to ask earlier. So this is about the difference in the job profile for candidates who are just graduating out of a master's program and a PhD program. How much of a difference is it?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like kind of the job positions that are offered for masters graduates and
Okay.
PhD.
So it depends on, in terms of the PhD, whether it's very focused research and whether that person is very interested in staying within that regime. That's a different type of offer than a master's level. There is differences in salary and differences in scale. Like we have different levels of engineers, so you come in different places. So yeah, it really comes back to what is it that you're interested in doing, and does that level of education match to the hands-on nature of what you want to do versus research versus something else. So I mean, I don't know how to answer it much more than that.
And for us, we have different types of rotational programs.
Yeah.
So with electronic systems, that rotational program is for undergrad, masters, and PhDs. The difference would be the level you're hired in and your salary, right? But you still get to work in different areas if it's something you're interested in and working in technically challenging areas. But another sector of ours has the future technical leaders, which you are hired into a rotational program that puts you on the fast track to being a VP or a director, and you get opportunities to work at different sectors, so then you wear a different sector hat. So there's a lot of different scenarios. Each candidate is considered for each scenario.
So then another question.
Yeah, speaking about resumes, you said that the recruiter spends like 4 to 6 seconds looking at resume. So in this perspective, how important is a cover letter being attached to a resume when you're spending only like 4 to 6 seconds? I mean, like, does it play any additional advantage if you actually attach a cover letter and personalize it and send it along with the resume? When you have 1,000 applications, I'm not pretty sure if you'll be spending time reading all that 1.5 to 2 paragraphs of stuff that people write in the cover letter. So how important is it to attach one?
Does anyone have a weapon? I have never once read a cover letter. Honestly, it's not required for my application process. Let me put it out there that way, so that way you know. Because I feel I can get what I need from your resume, because at the end of the day, I'm looking for your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And I think cover letters are great, but they're a way to add fluff about yourself.
I agree. I mean, actually, if you like what you see in the resume, we'll give you a call.
Yes.
And I have a slightly different answer. I think a well-written cover letter, not a fluff, will do it. And again, it goes right back to what I stated earlier, even about your resume, that the cover letter is customized. And one of the best that actually drew my socks off that I've ever seen was where they had a box in the middle of, like, after they did all the pleasantries, they had a box, and on the left-hand side were, all the skills required in the job description, and then on the right-hand side was, and here's how I meet, here's where I match. That I mean, like, at a glance, you could glance at the cover letter and see that this was like a perfect match for the job. Like, I think it was like 5 out of the 7 things we were looking for they had. And that was right there in the cover letter. I didn't even have to glance at the resume. The resume was like confirmation of and exactly where they went. So well-written cover letter will blow your socks off. But not fluff, how are you doing? I'm great and wonderful, you must hire me.
Right.
Thank you so much. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, so do you have any experience of, like, say you during the interview process, there's a very good candidate, but then he or she did something that changed your mind? So, like, is there anything that we should be looking for when we go into that role?
Evasiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to lead you to believe they're not telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably that's the biggest turnoff.
Answer the phone.
Yeah,
Phone ring, they answer it, they return a text. Oh, just 1 minute, please, and they text.
Demanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Demanding. I had a student a couple of months ago that demanded $100,000 because his parents told him he should.
Yeah.
So, like.
And I actually had a parent come into the interview with the applicant.
That's another thing.
This is a true story. This is a true story. But wanted to demand the salary and also to demand that they needed like natural sunlighting, so they needed to be in a corner office. Oh yeah, exactly.
The candidate is 10 years old because my 14-year-old son doesn't want to go anywhere. It's not embarrassing.
I couldn't believe that either one of them, the candidate or the parent, thought that was appropriate. I'm like, you really think that this is going to get this person a job?
Let's thank our guests here. Thank you.
You can stand up, I don't want to, see you in your face any further, but I just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of you for participating, and I guess we have 2 new panelists, so we would like to hand out a
Thank you again.
small gift.
Thank you. Thank you so much.